serious matter. And had I thought about it, I would have brought somebody from the public health arena. But this is about saving your health. And to the businesses out there, this is about health versus wealth. You can always revive a business. You can recover from a market crash. It may be more difficult. You may be at the brink of generating revenue. You're going from the red to the black. But ladies and gentlemen, you can always go to a bank. Perhaps the federal government will loan you money. But one thing I can tell you for certain, and if you can prove me wrong, prove me, we cannot bring back life at this point.
Yeah, when you're dead, you're dead.
When you're dead, you're dead.
Yes. So, in terms of okay, so and I understand essential to being our grocery stores, the pharmacies for people who need medication, and like I would say we have huge department stores, but we only have a Kmart, but like a Kmart where you can go and get those necessities that you need, and the gas stations. What else currently, because it's probably easier to say what is allowed to be open versus what's closed. So
Sure.
what is allowed to be open as of 6 o'clock today?
No, so there has not been a shutdown of businesses. What there has been is we've reduced the size of gathering of folks from 50 persons to 10 persons or less.
Okay.
Or greater than 10 persons is not prohibited. So those places, those businesses, those type of businesses, and you remember, it's not an all exhaustive, we can revisit it, but just for example, the things you need to live and just survive. So gas stations, auto supply stores, pharmacies, grocery stores, restaurants, hardware stores, professionals, contractors, exterminators, construction sites, banks, phoning companies, suppliers. So community
Airports,
benefits.
airports,
And Attorney O'Neill, please feel free.
infrastructure.
So
Yeah.
things that we need to exist.
Oh, okay.
So we have not come to, just like the states of Illinois, New York, California, and there's one other state where they've completely told everyone to stay at home and actually
New Jersey.
isolate yourself. We're not there yet. But
Okay.
one of the things I want everyone to think about is, in the event that's necessary, I don't doubt that Governor Bryan is gonna have to make that call. But at this point in time, we are trusting the citizens of the Virgin Islands to do the right thing. I'd like to, at this point, if I may, commend the Christiansted Restaurant and Retail Association. They sent out a message and they said most of their members have decided to close businesses for 2 weeks. So if you're planning to go into Christiansted, kindly contact your vendor that you're interested in patronizing and see if in fact they're open.
Yeah.
For those restaurants that are open, I commend you for doing takeout.
Yes.
I know you have to pay your bills and you're gonna do what you have to do to exist, and ladies and gentlemen, takeout is available. They're on both islands. I'm not sure if it's available on St. John. You can actually call it delivery service. Contact them and have them pick up your food.
Okay.
Now when that delivery person delivers your food, try to have them, if it's not raining outside, have them put it somewhere
Yeah.
so that you can pick it up so that you don't have that
So,
contact.
then you don't have the contact. So, so what you're saying in a nutshell is that the Department of Licensing, from the orders of the governor, the Department of Licensing is now monitoring to ensure that business establishments have no mass gatherings of more than 10. So we haven't done any business closures. We've just encouraged that there be no gatherings of more than 10 individuals.
That's correct. And
Okay.
Jamilah, or Miss Russell, however you want me to.
Hey, no, Jamilah
Okay,
is fine.
Jamilah. I don't have to just pull a middle name. So
No.
Jamilah, one of the things that we as a government are asking is literally 100% public cooperation. There should be no reason that we have to actually go out and enforce. Jamilah, you got me sweating and I'm not turning on the air.
Okay.
Cheese
Tell us,
and bread.
open the door and turn on the AC here.
Wow. I mean, if you need me to come on and pay some AC, let me know.
No,
Okay.
ain't that. It's just
All
that
right.
we just,
So it's
I don't
defined
have a-
in the governor's order that
Uh-huh.
the mass gathering as of 6 o'clock this morning is no more than 10 persons are permitted to gather in one area unless otherwise ordered in a single room or a single space at the same time, such as an auditorium, stadium, arena, large conference room, meeting hall, theater, house of worship, restaurant, bar, or any other confined indoor or outdoor space. And this includes all parades, fairs, festivals, and camping on public beaches. And as we indicated, you started the conversation by saying, so what does a mass gathering not include? Attorney O'Neill and I and Government House and other folks, we put together some items for direction. However, use your common sense. Essential activities, the airports, the hotels, the shopping malls, the center, offices, factories, refineries. We're trying to let the economy move as much as possible, but in the event it's necessary to quell this completely, at that point we'll address that. Attorney O'Neill?
And if I may just
Go
add,
ahead.
just to help people, because a lot of people have a lot of that we can't include a list that's exhaustive.
Exactly.
Right? You can't do that. So you try to do it. So what I try to do to try to educate on what makes sense is that what you're looking at and what you're focusing on is primary needs,
Okay.
essential, what is part of providing the primary needs to the public. Because he's sweating. Yeah. Primary needs and not shutting the doors to the opportunity for a citizen who needs primary needs, you know, who needs their primary needs to be met. So you focus on whether or not the operation is providing a service either of infrastructure need or of actually, you know, like food related or drink or medicine. So your service, you do not want at all in an epidemic like this to remove access to those who need it the most. So if someone needs medication, you cannot shut off the person's need and access to that medication. Now, when you do this, there should be directives coming that educate those who are in the medical field or facilities more pointedly on what to do.
On what to do.
Okay?
Okay.
And you know, Ms. Russell, and for the listening public,
It's also strange to hear you call me Miss Russell.
Jamilah, we work in, man.
Okay.
And you know, one of the things that I want to share with those entities who are exempt from the 10 or less, please, 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 with your staff first and with your patrons second, practice social distancing. If in fact you're exempt from the ruling because you're one of the essential businesses, when your establishment starts to avoid the 6 feet distancing because you have too many people in your establishment, limit the number of persons in that area, have people wait outside in their cars, maybe put a numbering system.
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, we are counting on you to provide the essential services on an honor system, but also to respect the fact that social distancing is one of the methods in which to prevent the transmission from person to person. And as we know, as of last night, there was one case, albeit through an airport, that it occurred, and there was that person did not travel off of the island. But we have to be vigilant and know that it's here. Before we used to say it's not a matter of if, but when. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now.
Here. It's now. And to delve into that, what you're saying, because a lot of times people need for you to repeat it. So what you're saying is you're asking for businesses to be prudent and to be diligent. It's not about making the most amount of money that you can, but exercising safety first for your employees.
Jamilah, I'm gonna say it
and
again.
also make sure that you start thinking about protocols that you can put in place to ensure that your employees and the customers are safe.
Correct. Jamilah, as I indicated, we educate before we regulate, and in this instance, health is more valuable than wealth.
Okay.
Okay?
Currently under the statute, what's the penalty for price gouging?
Attorney O'Neill?
So there are different ways to it escalates depending on the situation. So the Virgin Islands has in place different ways in which we can enforce price gouging. One of the ways that we do it is through the Price Control Act, and that's in Title 11, which is our consumer code. With that one specifically, it allows for those cases in which you have a price freeze. So here we have a price freeze currently since March 13th, which was when the state of the emergency was declared by the governor. So items related to protecting the public from the spread of the virus, including, although we don't have it in the items list, services. Okay, so any service that's provided to assist someone in preventing it or treating someone related to the virus is included as services and items that are on price freeze. So what does that mean? It means that whatever price you had on those items on the date of the declaration of the state of emergency are held frozen in order to protect the public. So that's one way. For that violation, the statute has two mechanisms, okay? It's prosecuted. You can prosecute it as a crime, okay, and that's a misdemeanor in Title 11. And then you can also prosecute it as an administrative fine, and that is $200 per item. Okay.
But
we have more.
Yeah, and that's the question. The maximum price, and then
no,
of
but
course,
there's more.
That elevates.
It can escalate to a 5,000. We can escalate. Listen, in those circumstances where a business practice is egregious enough after investigation, we can also, as the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, through our Department of Justice, we have two ways. We can use our Consumer Protection Act, okay, which allows us to assess an administrative fine of $5,000 per act of violation. Okay, and then there's more. There's another act that allows through the Department of Justice, in those very egregious cases, to escalate an administrative fine of $50,000, and that's through the court process. So we have depending on the severity or on the egregiousness of the behavior, we have the ability to assess administrative fines, but we also have, in those instances where that's not enough and we really need to protect public health, the executive order that was issued yesterday also allows the police and all enforcement officers to prosecute it as a public health order violation, and allows the criminal statute also to kick in on these things.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I think a lot of the public would prefer that you can immediately issue a fine. The fine right now would be the base fine starts at $200. That should be, people don't feel it until you take the money out of their pocket. So that $200, the initial $200 should be $5,000 to begin with for price gouging during the state of an emergency. That's just my personal belief. Or 10, because I'm telling you, after the hurricanes, I saw some things that happened, and the department was able to come in and stop some of the activities that occurred. But I saw some things, and I think that anybody that would want to take advantage of a community during a time of crisis, that not only should they be hit with having their name blasted out in the public and everybody boycott their business, but I also think that the hit needs to be a severe enough financial hit, because $200 ain't nothing. So that $5,000 or $10,000 that first go around, I bet you the next time a state of emergency is declared on a price freeze, they're not going to try to price gouge.
I need to emphasize that our statute does allow us to assess $5,000 administrative fine. It's just that it's not the starting point for the jurisdiction, but we absolutely have the authority to assess the $5,000.
I think the public would prefer if the starting point was the $5,000. That would deter you, because let's face it, I've worked at the department. You come in, you get hit with a fine, you negotiate down. And so if you start, I know Commissioner Evangelista, he's not much for negotiating, but it's not you. Other commissioners after you may come in and do something like that. So if you start high enough, even if you negotiate down, it's a financial blow. So I like
generally I'm very strict as a prosecutor. I'm super fair, but if the law is very clear, I am super strict on the recommendation. I go for the highest, depending on the circumstances, and I don't budge. There's no negotiation to that 200. If it's clear and the evidence is clear that I've got you, then you've got to sit down and the only thing that's going to show us that you're actually going to change or that you actually understand the severity of what you do is if you accept the responsibility for the administrative fine that we assess. So I normally, if that's what I'm recommending, there is no budging on that amount. That's why I it's depending on the circumstances. You do have circumstances sometimes where the willfulness may not be their factor, but you still need to assess to correct the situation in the future and make sure there are no errors being done. But if there is willfulness, there's no doubt that I could, and I know that the evidence is there, that there's a recommendation for the highest. And we can take it to assistance with the Department of Justice to $50,000, as long as when we investigate it, we're able to support that administrative fine.
And one of the things,
and that's fine. I commend you on that. But again, when I make my comments, it's not about the current administration. It's looking down the road. And I think
Jamilah,
that we just need to protect our people. And $200 just has been too little for too long.
And it's something that we can address after this show.
Afterwards, yeah.
The VIPD and the peace officers are actually meeting shortly to actually come up with the strategy and how we're going to address that. So I thank you for your comments, and if anybody actually sent that suggestion in, if in fact that's what we're going to have to do to hold the retailers to the table, to the stove, for the heat, and that's what we'll do. But I just want to share that this price freeze is actually relative to goods or services that are necessary for the public consumption to use, that will assist with the quell or the softening of the COVID-19. So it's not like the hurricane price freeze where it covers everything from A to C. But at this time, the items covered, just so you know, pursuant to the emergency health declaration on March 13th, include protective masks used to protect each other from if you're sick, all PPE equipment including gowns, bodies, gloves, and other protective gear, sanitizing and disinfecting supplies such as hand sanitizer, gel wipes, cleaning supplies for surface cleaning, and all commercial cleaning supplies, toilet paper, other paper wiping products, Dettol, and other hand or body wash and soap and water. And what I want to share with the community, because they've been after us on Facebook, is that we've actually, in a collaboration with VIA, we've actually created 2 hotlines, one for St. Croix, the District of St. Croix, and one for the District of St. Thomas and St. John. And on St. Croix, that number is 727-SCAM, 727-72226.
727 scam.
Scam,
Okay.
like a scam.
Yeah.
727-7226, and it's in this District of St. Thomas and St. John. That hotline is 771-SCAM.
So 727 and 771.
727 and 771 scam 7226. Ladies and gentlemen, this line is going to be manned by someone from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. However, please feel free to leave a voicemail. Additionally, via email, consumerawareness@dlca.vi.gov. One of the things I'd like to share with you, though, to assist our team when we do the investigation is don't just call and say, I find something.
Keep your receipts.
There, see, Jamilah, I tell you, no, you're going to law school. We need evidence and proof. Keep receipts, take photos if you have receipts from before for the similar product, and also keep in mind while you're doing your due diligence as the consumer to assist us, because remember, this is the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, and we do this together. We don't want to do this by ourselves, because if you can assist us with the investigation between Attorney O'Neill and Attorney Norford, they can actually quickly then decide whether or not we actually have a valid case.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may find an item that you believe is mispriced or priced higher than the last time you bought it. Keep in mind that in this day and age, companies are actually creating smaller packaging, but they have the same amount of contents within that packaging. So that's one of the misleading things that people have been coming to me. So take a look at what the actual content, the amount of quantity of that packaging.
So 16 ounces can be 16 ounces in
In
a
a
rectangle,
smaller-
in a rectangle
There you
big
go.
box, and then 16 ounces they could put it down in a little square. So don't look at the size of the box, look at the ounces,
Quantity.
the labeling on the box to
Right.
make sure that you're paying the same price. We're gonna talk about gas and the
Yes.
reduction of gas prices, but apparently people want to talk to you. Oh no, maybe
She
not.
didn't send it to you. She didn't send it to you.
Oh, okay, nobody want to talk to you no more.
No problem.
Okay,
And
so
one thing
go
I
ahead.
really wanted to add, one of the things, so generally people may believe that it's an automatic case that you automatically have what you need to be able to charge someone with price gouging. It does require investigation in certain instances, okay? Willful behavior, if it's the price freeze issue and it's clear what that price is, but knowing what that price is requires subpoenas. That's just something that we've already, so the complaints that have already come in, we've already started investigations on those particular complaints, and they're through mechanism of a subpoena, because at the end of the day you don't want to just charge it. If everybody has the right to an appeal, you want to uphold that charge, right?
Yes,
At
you
the
have
end
to
of
be
the
able
day.
to have
And-
the
and-
proper evidence to be able
And you-
to sustain
to stand
the,
it.
to sustain the
That's
charge.
my lawyer,
And you
Tony
just
Russell.
and you just can't. And for the listening public, what Attorney O'Neill is saying is that not everything you think is price gouging is legally fits the definition of price gouging. businesses, and I think y'all need to clear this up. There are instances where businesses can legitimately raise their prices even if a price freeze is in effect, if they can prove to the Department of Licensing that they purchased it at a higher price.
That's correct.
And so just because there's a difference or a fluctuation in the price doesn't automatically mean that the business has price gouged you.
That's correct. And,
So,
ladies and gentlemen of the listening audience of the Jamilah E. Russell Show, I say your middle
No, I
name.
mean just
We
Jamilah.
are already getting calls from retailers and wholesalers, underscore wholesalers and retailers, wherein their procurements for the trailers coming in the next 2-3 weeks, those prices have already risen to them because the demand in the States has also risen. So, if in fact you see the price increase, what I've told these retailers is share with us what is going on so that we can share that with the community so that they don't have to come to us. We're actually being proactive. We have retailers that are being proactive. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we have different type of retailers here. We have the wholesale stores, we have retail stores, we have high-end retail stores. So please do not expect the high-end retail stores that you didn't go in to have the same price as the retail stores. They have a different market.
So you need to explain to them. Let me
Break it down,
let me
Jamilah.
give you
But
an example.
don't call no names.
Okay,
Break
let
it
me
down.
Before you go into that, right, I want to make sure that the process, that there is a written procedural process for requesting price increases. So the prices increases aren't through a phone call to the commissioner, okay? So I want everybody to understand and be clear that this is not approval by a phone call to the commissioner.
Retailers, listen.
There is a petitioning process through the Price Control Act. You can call the department to find the procedure for that, and you petition for the price increase, and that petition will then we will have an order issued by the commissioner in writing that after we determine upon the supporting evidence of your costing, and we can look into your inventory, we can come to the store and to look at that. In these days, because that's unsafe for us, we would have that electronically sent to us. So please understand that it's not just you get to increase. There is a procedural process for you to request and petition for those increases, and you get approval issued by the commissioner through an order.
Okay, so for the general public, because some people don't understand legalese.
Break it down.
What the district council has just said is that businesses, in order for them to have a change in their price, they would have to submit a paper application to the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. After the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs do their due diligence by checking the prices and doing whatever checks that they need to do internally, they will make a recommendation to the commissioner. If the commissioner approves the price increase, he will issue an order with his signature affixed to it, and then the stores can change the price. If he's decided you don't have enough documentation, you have to keep the price as is, then they keep the price as is. So it's not, let me just call over the phone and start raising this by 60 cents. No, they have to submit paperwork to justify the price increase.
That's correct. And once again, since we're talking about price gouging out, listening audience, as indicated, we have set up hotlines in collaboration with VIA.
727
Croy, 727 scam, which is 7226, and Jamilah 771 scam. So you guys, those are hotlines dedicated 8 to 5 Monday through Friday outside of business hours. Leave a message and we'll get to you. And if you actually have documentation to substantiate and you can actually scan and submit it to us, consumerawareness@dlca.vi.gov.
Okay, and now there's a difference between discount stores and high-end stores. And what the commissioner is trying to say is that there's stores that have they're smaller and they sell organic this, organic that, and they bring in products from different brand names. You can't expect to go to that store and see rice for $5 a bag and want the same price because Kmart they sell rice for $1. I had to use Kmart so they can understand. So you have to make sure that you understand the store that you're shopping at and understand that different brands of product carry different prices.
Now, that does not negate the fact that there are certain retailers such as fuel stations where we find that the allegation of price gouging takes on the highest form of gouging. What I'm saying to you is take a photo, submit the evidence so that we can go investigate.
Okay, now that you mentioned fuel stations,
That's why that's a segment.
That's a segue to
I'm telling
fuel. We're gonna talk about the lowering of gas prices. Good morning. You have a question?
I'm on the phone.
Turn on your radio. Our DLCA phone number is 727-SCAM and 771-SCAM. Yeah. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm calling in reference to the number for the office of itself.
The number for the
For
office of
DLC
what?
itself, your
The
phone number.
DLCS.
They to report fraudulent
Or just
activity.
general.
Oh, 718-2226? No,
713.
No,
713-3522 for St. Croix.
Oh yeah, I changed it to DLCA. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
And then for St. Thomas, I think it's 714-3522.
Okay, so it's 713 DLCA and 774 DLCA.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, and caller, please keep in mind that we are our services are going to be limited beginning on Monday, and that's why we have the hotline to share with us information about price gouging. But if you're actually calling about a business license, please feel free to go to our website, www.dlca.vi.gov, so that we can assist you as efficiently as possible.
It used to be 22,
Thank you.
right? Years ago.
All right, so
Sorry.
Jamilah,
Yeah,
so now let's go to
let's
fuel.
talk about fuel.
Okay, so I just want to share with the listening public. We have been monitoring the price of a barrel of oil since the downslide started to begin second week of January. Actually the third, fourth week of January. It has been sliding. Nonetheless, on or about the middle of February, we actually sent out letters to both wholesalers and retailers for them to voluntarily submit to DLCA their receipts and their sales invoices on their purchases from the wholesalers and what they were charging the customers. Unfortunately, many persons did not adhere to the voluntary compliance. This is us educating before we regulate. Thereafter, as we began to publish the rack rate so that the public can see what the retailers were purchasing their fuel at, one retailer, and I'm going to call it because they started this slide, last week Tuesday, Ziggy's actually reduced their price by $2 to $2.39 thereabouts. And immediately thereafter, within 12 hours, stations started to follow. Now this is in the District of St. Croix, and I'm going to share with you why this is occurring. We actually have real-time access to the rack rate at Lime Tree, from whom the District of St. Croix retailers purchase fuel. On St. Thomas and St. John, the retailers there purchased their fuel out of Puerto Rico, and those wholesalers have not voluntarily submitted information to us on what they're selling the fuel to those retailers for. So last week we actually issued subpoenas, which we are permitted to do, to get those prices. So I'm calling on the St. Thomas and St. John retailers to do the right thing and drop your prices accordingly, because the way we can monitor the wholesale price out of Puerto Rico without actual evidence is to just look at the equivalent of DLCA in Puerto Rico, which is DACO, who posts on a daily basis what the rack rate is in Puerto Rico.
Okay, now let me ask a question.
One second before you go, Jamilah, because I want to listen to the audience to know that we have not forgotten about St. Thomas and St. John, and I know these airwaves that hit over there. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs has the power to request documentation, and if the stations cannot voluntarily do the right thing by the consumer and avoid a large profit margin, we can go in, we meaning DLCA, get the paperwork and actually start adjusting prices to ensure that their price margin is not so gross that you're actually gouging the customer. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. And ladies and gentlemen who own these retail stations, I'm telling you, do the right thing, or else if you fail to do so, we will go so far as follow the route of the Department of Justice. And since we're talking about price gouging, to tell you why we're serious, we actually already have gone after contractors who have done the wrong thing, unlicensed contractors, taken money from persons, have not delivered. We actually have an ongoing working relationship with Attorney General Denise George, who is assisting us with prosecuting cases after we get all the evidence. And that's thanks to Attorney O'Neill and Attorney Norford on St. Thomas, who's actually getting this information for us. So we are doing a lot of prosecution to assist the customer. However, it cannot be done overnight. We actually have to develop the cases And as it relates to fuel, ladies and gentlemen, I'm serious because I know you've seen prices from the States on
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
from your friends. Right now, the rack rate as of next week at Hovenza, I'm sorry, not Hovenza, strike that, from Lime Tree, is actually going to be $1.03 for regular and $1.16 for premium.
Okay, now let me ask a question here though, because I know that Lime Tree isn't a wholesaler, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So
Wait.
let's
Let me
that's
ask
correct.
the
It's not Lime
wait.
Tree.
Okay, wait. Let
It's
me ask the
Gulf
question.
Oil
Wait, let me
here,
ask the
because I don't
question.
want it- okay.
Yeah, let me ask the
But I
question.
want to correct for the
wait,
audience,
let me
it's not Lime
let me
Tree.
ask the
Okay.
question. I know where I'm going.
Lime Tree
I know
has
where
the-
I'm going.
Lime Tree has the storage.
So Lime Tree is a storage facility.
Correct.
Under the terminal agreement that they have with the government of
Yes,
the Virgin
correct.
Islands. So the rack rate that you're speaking of, that whose rack rate is that? Is that Lime Tree's rack rate, or is that Gulf, the wholesaler that the gas stations purchase the prices from?
Attorney O'Neill?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Lime Tree contract that you're referring to allows Lime Tree to contract, okay, an operator of the fuel rack. So it's one and the same in that sense. But technically, the operator is Gulf Oil,
Who's selling the fuel?
who is the one that is actually selling. It's operating the fuel rack. So Lime Tree is not involved in the direct operation because it contracts that out to Gulf Oil, and Gulf Oil is the one that is engaged in the business of operation of the fuel rack.
Okay,
So
and so the question
purchasing-
remains, so my question is, and this is the question, the rack rate you're giving me, is that what Gulf is selling it to the consumer?
That's
Because
correct.
I don't want for Gulf
That's
to
correct.
come back and say this is the rack rate that I get it from Lime Tree, but then I charge them 20 cents
So
in addition
so
to that.
Jamilah?
So the spreadsheet that is what Gulf is actually
Jamilah,
charging the retailers.
The price I just quoted you is the price that Gulf is selling to the retailers.
Okay.
Directly,
Okay.
directly,
Okay,
So-
and that's what needs
But
to
it,
be
it,
said.
it doesn't
okay.
include the transportation costs.
Okay.
So I'm gonna work with the retailers there. But ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
it is our duty, and I say our because I buy gas too.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, cater to the station that charges the lower rates. I
Yes.
don't know how to say that and underscore that. It may sound unfair, but also what I want to share with you is those stations who purchased fuel at the higher rate, they are permitted to exhaust that fuel. But if you look at the rack rate that we've been publishing since I think the maybe beginning of February, the price has been dropping.
So they should
So-
have depleted their inventory
So
by now.
Jamilah, you could be my partner, okay? But if you gonna watch me in my eye and sell me gas at a profit of $2 a gallon, and I could go to Jojo gas station and they only gonna make $1 on me, trust me, Jamilah.
I go into the dollar.
You and me buying on the same day, but I go into the next place
and I
because
tell them I so cheap, right?
Okay.
I so cheap. I will go across the street for the cheaper price. That's
And-
just how.
and that's
just
what
how
people
I am.
us do in the
And-
States,
and
you know
that's
that?
what they do.
When we were in DC, we used to drive one block around the
Run
corner
back around the
for
corner
2
because,
cents
because
cheaper.
it was 2 cents cheaper.
I hear you talking 50 cents.
Yeah,
Come on,
so,
Jamilah.
so now this is the question that the people in the community have. Is there a mechanism in place at the Department of Licensing? And I know, and some of this would have been made public because prior to COVID, your department was scheduled to testify and bring information through
Senator
the committee,
Bonds
Senator
committee,
Bonds, who I work for. And
thank
we've
you
had-
very
and
much
we've had
for
com-
allowing me to speak about this because this is exactly what we were going to bring forth.
Yeah.
What happened? So,
Okay.
pursuant to the VI code, we actually have the ability to subpoena the information, and pursuant to the VI code, we have the authority to determine the price at which it can be sold after we analyze the information and we determine that a reasonable margin of profit is now exorbitant, so
Okay.
that we can actually work on that profit.
And that's subjective, clearly, because as a commissioner,
That's
you
right.
have some subjectivity in that determination.
And you know-
and you have to, as a commissioner, you have to balance your role as regulator with ensuring that the businesses are able to sustain themselves.
thank you.
So there's a fine
See?
balance that you have to navigate.
And then this is what I want to share with the listening community, because you're actually on it. We're bound on the same day for a reason. Licensing is not here to shut down businesses. We are here to ensure fairness. Okay? Because I keep telling everybody, nobody goes into business to give away the shop. However, ladies and gentlemen, we have to be fair. We all live in this community. You should not be permitted to gouge the consumer. It is unfair and unscrupulous at this point in time.
Well, I know a gas station that, and I have from the hurricane, and I have never. My gas light was blinking, and I tell the good lad, you gonna carry me.
Jamilah,
or
call
I'm
me
gonna-
and I'm gonna bring you some gas. You
listen,
stop on the road.
and I said I know enough people that if I stop, but I would not stop to that gas station because I saw what they did after Hurricanes Irma and Maria, and I can't ever give $1 back. In terms of that though, I think
But
it's
you
so.
got disco light in here blinking. What's
Because
that?
people are always trying to call, and I'd be trying to ignore. Well, yeah, I don't let me ignore the phone
You
calls.
got a light blinking?
I know, but it's been blinking. and
Caller,
I've been
good morning.
ignoring.
How may we assist?
Morning.
Morning, caller.
Yeah, morning, good brother. How are you?
We there.
We are not state of emergency, correct?
Yes, sir.
So is there a protocol when you're under a state of emergency for just like the gas station, the supermarket, to lower the prices or
No, so the state of
help the
the
people in our society to get through this state of emergency? Is there any statute or anything that indicates or says that under a state of emergency, prices that are, let's say, like gas prices that are ridiculous, as far as I'm concerned, should be lowered?
Okay.
we gonna let Counsel answer that. Thank you for the call.
And the short answer to thanks for the call, brother. But the short answer to that is, and that's common sense. You can always lower your price. You just can't increase your price. So there's nothing that prevents any place from lowering the prices under a state of emergency.
correct.
You just can't raise the price. And you can tell me the legal
Yeah,
if
Tony, I know
that's
we're gonna give
legal.
you
Yeah, the
legalese.
legalese.
Yeah, the price freeze. A price freeze is a ceiling on the price items that are covered by the price freeze. So that means that
At
is
the
the
time of the
highest at the
proclamation.
time. That's the highest unless you petition to go higher based on cost. Now, but
You
you
don't
can
set a
always
floor.
but you can always lower.
Yeah.
But one of the but I believe if and caller if I'm correct, I believe that he's also asking the question and whether or not in a state of emergency there's some assistance that we give to the community to assist them during the state of emergency. The Line Tree contract did include a provision that allows or mandates that the operator of the rack only not charge their profit margin.
During a declared
during
state of
a-
emergency.
Absolutely.
But the
And that's
only-
kicked in.
And the only question I had was whether it was a natural disaster, but then a disease is a natural
This
disaster.
a pandemic.
This a pandemic,
This is
yeah.
a natural
so,
disaster.
This a pandemic. So
The state
it
of-
would, because I couldn't remember and I couldn't find
This a pandemic.
I couldn't find a section.
Natural disaster is the earth.
And for some reason I thought that's what the article from and I was like, did it say natural disaster or does it include? And clearly it does, because you're saying I couldn't find the section of the contract that dealt with that, but it's
It's in
okay.
it's in Article 6 of the Line Tree
Okay.
contract.
Okay,
agreement.
thank you. I have
Wait,
the
Jamilah,
contract.
this a good hope. Along-
Listen, in
Well,
Good Hope. In Good Hope. We don't read. We don't be prepared.
Alright, let's go.
We got prepared for all of this. So Lime Tree has clearly the government of the Virgin Islands has invoked that section of the contract along with Lime Tree to
So
automatically
as it
reduce the
relates
price.
to corporate
Absolutely.
citizens that do the right thing,
They've
they
done
did
the
it
right
on
thing.
their own.
Okay.
Yeah, they
So
know
you didn't have to call Lime Tree.
they know
No, Gulf
Okay.
Oil.
in
Gulf.
Oil. Yeah, that's why I wanted the distinction because they are the operators. Gulf Oil, even during the hurricanes, the relationship that we at the Department of Licensing have had with Gulf has been absolutely amazing. Even during those times, they actually froze more than that.
Okay.
For a period, for 3 months, for
Okay.
exactly 3 periods. I did get on that call, and I did say if there's anything that Lime Tree, Gulf. Now you got me.
Yeah, Gulf,
If
yeah. anything
anything that Gulf can do in these circumstances to assist us, because everyone was using it for their generators. I mean,
Yes.
it had become a primary need not only for your your car, your vehicle, but to operate your whole household. But this time around, they were in front of the game,
They were
and
in
they
front
had
of
already this week, as soon as that proclamation went out, they had already known that
That was
10% Yeah, it was automatically taken off their cost. So
Okay.
right now they're selling at cost.
Okay, so for those of you who may not have just understood what we were talking about, there's a provision in the terminal in the contract on the terminal side that speaks the Lime Tree contract on the terminal side that speaks to in the event of I thought it was just a natural disaster, but clearly in terms of any kind of disaster, natural or man-made or
That's an alleged, because we don't know if this is Corona's man-made, right?
or whatever kind of disaster, I don't even know, a pandemic, let's just call it what it is, and in an emergency, that the operator of the rack, hey auntie, how are you? The operator of the rack would would reduce they would reduce their prices, because it would be seen as a necessity for the people of the Virgin Islands to be able to have access to gas to move around,
It's a
and
mechanism of
it's a
relief.
mechanism of relief. So we want to thank Lime Tree through its rack operator Gulf for being good corporate citizens and coming forward. The department didn't have to reach out to them. They came forward and they did what they needed to do in that regard. Let me try to get two more questions so that we can get some more information as from Commissioner Evangelista.
No problem. We
Go
also need
ahead.
to speak about the Social Security scam.
Yes, let's talk about that. Good morning. Hello? Okay, they didn't talk. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. My question is, what happened if this business put a price gouging in before the state of emergency or freeze was made on their prices?
So that's not a price gouge. A price gouge means after the state of emergency was declared. That was the question I asked the governor last week. Places may have risen, if they raised their prices prior to the implementation of the price freeze, there is nothing that the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs can do at this point. Your price is your price at the day of the price freeze.
Now, listen, caller.
They may have known this is coming on and they decide to raise, even though they don't have any manifest to show that the price should be at where it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the attorney will try to provide you some additional insight into that. Okay.
Okay, so I need
Okay.
to actually. You're right, caller. The price gouging, but so that you understand, there's two types of cases for price gouging. There's what we call price gouging per se. That's what the $200 that's a price gouging per se. In other words, you increase your prices after the price freeze. It's automatic unless you can show costing and you didn't petition. That's automatic. But price gouging, what we're talking about, is the unreasonable pricing of anything that you sell, especially commodities. Unreasonable or unfair pricing, that's already in the statute.
Yeah.
We do not need a natural disaster or a natural to do that. And so that's why, please know that before the pandemic, we had already, one of the first goals that the commissioner had coming on board was to investigate the fuel prices so that if they're unreasonably pricing, we could do something about it. So it's still.
And I think a lot of concerns is that, this small bottle of Purell, a lot of places now charging $7 for something this size, and they invoke that price prior to the because a lot of these unscrupulous business owners, they knew that hey, I mean, if you pay attention to the national news, you know what's going to come down the pipe, and so they raise their prices, and some of them may not have raised it in such a, they might have raised it by 50 cents or $1, but they still raised it. And I think that's the question some people have.
But you know what though, listening audience, one of the things that I tell people is laws are laws, but we as consumers have to be smart. If you know an establishment that is charging fair prices, then we all need to move there. We could come back to just basic commodities, food. If we too lazy to go 2 miles someplace to buy the milk for $2 a gallon versus right in front of my house for $5 a gallon, that's on us. Crowds move, masses move, prices.
And
we need to get together. We need to start shaming the businesses that are robbing us as people.
Now, will the department send out a shame list as to those individuals that you found to gouge?
If that's something, I actually thought about it. I don't know how that's going to look as a government, but the wall of shame, I've always said that. I've said that in my team meetings.
Yes.
They're like, you know what? Instead of a wall of fame, let's have a wall of shame.
Okay.
But that's negative reinforcement,
I
and that necessarily gets you the response you need.
Yeah.
Okay, and just on that issue of some price gouging, we also look at circumstances where in a community that may not have vehicles, that may have difficulty with transportation. So for instance, if you're located close to one of those where they're actually on foot, they're actually walking to those stores, you can take that into consideration in whether or not you're pricing unfairly to those people. So don't think that that those are not factors that you consider and in your unreasonableness of the pricing. At the end of the day, it's your costing. If your costs don't support that price, that's where you get the unfairness.
Okay. And fair enough. Can you tell us about this Social Security scam, and then we would have touched everything I think you needed to.
Yeah.
talk
So
about.
as Department of Licensed Consumer Affairs, we also field phone calls about scams. The Social Security Office has already published something locally online. The VIPD has said something, and DLC is fielding calls. So we're running a public service announcement that I think I shared with Jamilah. If you can run it, I think you should run it.
I
But
will.
essentially, what has happened is there's persons calling your cell phone, not even your landline, because I don't know how many people still have a landline, and they identify themselves as a Social Security agent, and they say that they need you to return the call because if you fail to do so, a possible criminal action can be brought against you. Ladies and gentlemen, do not return the phone call. Instead, report it to 727-SCAM or 771-SCAM or contact the VI Police Department. But more importantly, if you have access, the Social Security Office wants you to go online at https://oig.ssa.gov, which is the Inspector General for the Social Security Office. They're actually taking information to collect data so that they can build their case against this person or entity, whoever is doing this. Do not, in addition to not returning the phone call, if they tell you to submit prepaid credit cards, gift cards, do not send them anywhere. Do not do anything. The Social Security Office will rarely, if ever, contact you to tell you have to do something. Instead, they'll contact you and you'll have to go in and meet them in a face-to-face appointment.
Yeah, and just for the record, no government office calls you and asks you for your personal information over the phone. Every government office have your address, and they're gonna mail you something to your, and even mail, you have to go in, don't send anything back to the people. You verify that these are legitimate places. Everybody that's on social media and has access to the internet. If you get something, a quick Google search will tell you whether or not there's a scam going on. The Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, BMV, Social Security, finance, tax, none of them ain't gonna call you on your phone and tell you give me your date of birth, your social security number, or your bank information. So let's just all be wise and not give out our information over the phone. Just make it a standard policy not to give out your information. And I'm gonna have Jen, can you play this public service announcement? Huh? You share it to her?
No.
Okay, we need to share a public service announcement. You have it? Okay, so how can I get this played?
I could play it right if you want.
Oh, through the mic? Oh, just press mic. Just press play. Okay. All right. You need me, Auntie? Not that kind of announcement? Okay.
You can plug in with the auxiliary cord though, and it will go through.
Plug it in this? Oh.
Yes, we
Recently,
can.
there's been an influx of scam calls to persons throughout the Virgin Islands from what is termed a social security officer. Please note that it is a prank call, essentially a scam, and if in fact there's a problem with your social security number or record, in most cases, Social Security will mail you a letter. So please do not submit any payments to this person or send anything in terms of a government fee or fine using retail gift cards, cash, internet currency, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. The scammer asks for payment in this way because it is very difficult to trace and recover. If you receive a call or email that you believe to be suspicious about a problem with your Social Security number or account, hang up or do not respond. We encourage the public to report Social Security phone scams using its dedicated online form at https://oig.ssa.gov or contact the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs to report this or the VIPD.
My name is Officer Steve White calling in from the Department of Social Security Administration. The reason you have received this phone call from our department is to
I got a message.
legal enforcement action that you
I'm sorry.
have filed on your name and social number for criminal activity. So before we proceed,
Please do not respond to the scammer and allow us to assist you to resolve the issue. Thank you and have a great day. Contact the DLCA at 340-727-SCAM. That is 340-727-7226. Or in the St. Thomas St. John District, contact us at 340-771-SCAM. That's 340-771-7226. I approve this message.
I got that message on my phone and I kindly just swiped to the left to delete.
And you thought they were asking you for a date?
No, I just swiped to the left. Date or no date, I swiped to the left. But I want to thank the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs for coming in. Know that I'm on here on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and if you have any more information during this time of crisis or even non-crisis times, you can feel free to come in and share the information with the public.
On behalf of DLCA, Attorney O'Neill, the rest of the staff, thank you very much for allowing us to share with the community the very vital information that we have. And once again, we have 2 numbers available for you as a hotline. They're manned Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And on the weekends, we'll actually take messages. But for access on the weekend, if you'd like a response, if Ms. Daniels, who's over there on the left, is able and capable, it's consumerawareness@dlca.vi.gov. And the phone numbers for the scams and the price gouging and whatever other information you have is 727-SCAM, 727, I'm sorry, 727, go ahead, Jamilah.
727-SCAM, 771-SCAM.
There you go, that's where you're bright.
Okay.
Thank you very
All
much,
right.
everyone. Have a great
Okay.
weekend. And be safe, practice social distancing, and retailers, businesses,
Do the
please,
right thing.
Do the right thing.
Be like Spike Lee, do the right thing. And Auntie, you want to say something about your church tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
come, because you don't get in church.